Hello, super quick intro. Today I'm going to be showing you the solution for the Hanayama Cage puzzle. It's a very fiddly puzzle to solve. We're first going to examine the actual star piece so that you can identify the right piece, and then we'll put it inside the cage to show you the position that you use to get it out. Then we'll go through the reverse of putting it back together, and let's get straight into it. Okay, so here we have a cage puzzle. Obviously it's not fully assembled because before we actually get into how this star comes out of the cage, we need to identify a certain point on this star, one of the 6 that it has, that we're going to be holding on to the whole time while we do a certain move to get it out of this cage. So first of all, it's a little bit easier for me to show you which point is the right point when it's in this position than if I had it in the actual cage itself. It doesn't make it any easier for you to identify when it's in your cage, but it's easier to know what you are looking for if we do it in this position here. So the first thing we need to do is identify the shortest of the points on the star, which for me is this point up here. Once we've got the short point, we're then going to identify a certain angle around that point. So you can see this angle and this angle are pretty much the same. However, this angle and this angle are quite different. So this angle here is the same as these two, but this one is a lot more flattened out. So there's a lot more of the star in this position here. And once we've identified this angle on the shortest point, we now know that we're going to be holding this point in here the whole time while we do the certain clockwise or anti-clockwise moves to separate this star from this cage, which we will go through right now. So once you've got the correct point on the star, the next thing you need to do is identify which of the gaps in the cage you're going to be coming out of. And it's quite easy to identify because first of all, there's only 2 gaps that have cage written above and below it. And of those 2 that have cage written above and below it, there's only one side, this side, which has sort of like a block above the middle point. So it creates this nice big gap here for the star to come out of. So that's the only side that we need to focus on. So we've got our point here, and we're going to orientate it in a position where we're holding the point that we identified, and we have the shortest point facing to the left as we're looking down on it, or west if you're looking on a compass. And from here, what we're going to do, we've got the short point facing west. We're going to get the point that's facing north out to the left hand side, or sort of like a northwest position into here. And we're going to not drop it to start with. And we're going to then do one big continuous anti-clockwise twist, essentially until all the points of the star are out and it's completely separated. So we're going to turn anti-clockwise. Now here it makes sense, or you think it would make sense for this point here to come out next, but all we're going to do is we're going to continue turning around. I'm going to swap over hands so you can see this a little bit easier. So we twist a little bit further, and then we can get that short stump out, and then from there we then can separate the star puzzle, or the star piece, from the cage. And all you need to think about with this one is that it's one big 360-degree turn. So the short stump starts on the left hand side, and then once we've twisted it all the way around and got all the pegs out, it finishes on the left hand side as well. And that is how you separate the cage puzzle. And to put the star back into the cage and reassemble the cage puzzle, we need to do those 2 things first. Identify which gap we're using, this one, and then it's a little bit easier to do now that the star's out. We're going to identify the short point. We're going to identify the angle in this position, which means we're going to be holding the opposite side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place it in a position where the short point is facing left, or west if we're using the compass analogy again. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop the one that's below the point that we're holding and the one that's facing south into the cage first in this position. And now it's the complete opposite. We're going to do one continuous clockwise turn. The short stump goes in there, and then we just continue turning clockwise until each point on the star is back in its cage and we have reassembled the cage puzzle. So there it is, that is how you disassemble and then reassemble the cage puzzle. As I was saying, like the hardest part of this one is identifying the right piece while the star bit is in the cage, and then maneuvering it around can be a little bit awkward, but once you've found the right piece, you'll get there eventually. And hopefully this has helped you solve the Hanayama Cage puzzle for yourself. If you do come across any problems or have any questions or anything, comment below and I will do my very best to help. And thank you very much for being here. If you want to see me solve more of these Hanayama puzzles and these step-by-step solutions to all these other ones, then be sure to click my face here to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace!